Real Madrid are looking for a manager, and when Real Madrid look for a manager, the entire football world stops and watches. This is not just any vacancy. This is the Santiago Bernabéu. This is the club of Zidane, of Ancelotti, of Mourinho. The club that expects trophies not as a bonus, but as a baseline. The club where anything less than a Champions League semi-final feels like failure, and anything less than a league title feels like crisis. And right now, they are in crisis. With Madrid set for a second successive season without a major trophy, the club is poised for a summer of change. Álvaro Baleo looks highly unlikely to continue beyond the end of the campaign, having failed to right the ship following Xabi Alonso's mid-season departure. The search for the next Real Madrid manager is the biggest story in football this summer. And in this video, we are going to break down every single candidate. Who's in, who's out, who Florentino Pérez actually wants, and who ends up sitting in that dugout when the new season begins. Let's go. To understand the manager search, you first need to understand how Real Madrid arrived here. It started with what looked like a masterstroke. After Carlo Ancelotti's second spell ended last summer, Madrid turned to one of the most exciting young managers in Europe, Xabi Alonso, the former midfielder who had just delivered a historic unbeaten Bundesliga season with Bayer Leverkusen, seemed the perfect fit. A club legend returning as coach with a modern tactical identity, with the respect of the dressing room built in before he even walked through the door. But the Alonso era never really got started. Results were inconsistent, the squad, bloated in certain areas, thin in others, didn't respond to his ideas the way Leverkusen had. And by January, the decision was made. Alonso was out. Álvaro Arbeloa, a club legend, yes, but a man with no top-level managerial experience, was promoted from the B team as a caretaker solution. It was never meant to be permanent. Everyone knew that. The decision over who will be Madrid's next manager is being handled entirely by Florentino Pérez himself, the president who built the Galactico era, who brought back Zidane twice, who brought back Ancelotti, a man who has strong opinions, personal relationships with certain coaches, and an ego that means he wants to make this decision himself. The result is a summer where 3 or 4 names are circling the Bernabéu simultaneously, and nobody, including the candidates themselves, is entirely sure who gets the job.
The name that generated the most excitement, the most debate, and the most column inches was Jürgen Klopp. And on paper, the idea is intoxicating. The man who won the Champions League with Liverpool, the man who turned Borussia Dortmund into one of the most electrifying teams in Europe, a manager of enormous charisma, tactical intelligence, and the ability to build genuine belief within a squad. At a club like Real Madrid, with the talent available, with the fan base demanding, with the stage provided, the idea of Klopp in that dugout was genuinely exciting. Real Madrid's hierarchy explored it. Klopp has long been admired by the club's hierarchy. Reports from Spain insisted that Klopp would be the next Real Madrid coach, with the former Liverpool manager welcomed by the possibility of taking the job. There were even reports that Toni Kroos, returning to act as a link between the dressing room and the board, believed Klopp was the ideal manager to lead Real Madrid's new project, and that his knowledge of German football and relationship with Klopp could facilitate the team's adaptation to a new style of play. But then reality set in. Klopp is still fully involved in his current role within the Red Bull football structure. He has not stepped away or reduced his responsibilities. He was recently in Brazil, closely following the progress of RB Bragantino. That level of involvement shows he remains committed to his current project. And there is a second, more concrete obstacle. Klopp is already set to work as an analyst during the 2026 World Cup, which will take place in the United States. That agreement with a German television network makes any immediate return to club management even more complicated. Real Madrid legend Jorge Valdano also ruled out Klopp as a realistic candidate, saying Klopp needs a year to build a team, and I find it hard to believe that at a club like Real Madrid he can have just 1 year, because results are needed first. The Klopp dream is beautiful, but the evidence says its stay is a dream.
And then there is the name that nobody expected to be serious until suddenly it was the most serious name of all, José Mourinho. Back at Real Madrid, 13 years after leaving under a cloud of controversy, political chaos, and a press conference that became one of the most discussed moments in Spanish football history. José Mourinho is Real Madrid president Florentino Pérez's preferred choice to replace Álvaro Arbeloa as head coach, according to The Athletic. That is not a rumor. That is not speculation from an anonymous source. That is one of the most reliable journalists in football, David Ornstein, putting his name to the claim. Sources have confirmed that Mourinho himself is willing to leave his current role as Benfica manager and move to Madrid at the end of the season. The willingness is mutual. The question is whether the logic holds up. The argument for Mourinho is simple. He knows this club. He knows La Liga. He knows what it takes to win at the Bernabéu. He won 3 major trophies with Real Madrid between 2010 and 2013, including La Liga in 2012. In a moment where Madrid need results immediately, where patience is not available as a luxury, Mourinho delivers results. He always has. But the argument against is just as powerful. The dressing room chaos of his first spell, the relationship breakdowns with players like Casillas, the style of football that often sacrifices spectacle for pragmatism, something that has never sat completely comfortably with the Bernabeu's expectations, and the fact that his last 2 major club jobs at Tottenham and Roma ended badly. Real Madrid legend Jorge Valdano called Mourinho's time in the Spanish capital a closed chapter, a signal that not everyone inside the club's orbit is enthusiastic about this direction. Spanish journalist Miguel Serrano said, "I think Real Madrid's coach is going to be Mourinho, because every day that goes by without Klopp giving an answer, it is understood that he is not going to want to, and the next one on the ladder who generates some excitement is Mourinho." Real Madrid's next chapter begins this summer, and whoever walks into that press conference, sits down in front of the cameras, and says the words Hala Madrid for the first time, they will be inheriting the most demanding, most rewarding, most unforgiving job in football. Good luck. You're going to need it.